Take it away, Neil.
Awesome. So I'm pleased to have Andrea Pohlman joining us today, who goes by Dr. Dre, even though she will tell you she's neither a doctor nor a rapper, but it all works out. Andrea is somebody I've known for a long time. We worked in the incident response business together at Microsoft. Um, she has been. You meet people along your journey who are just you want to know, you want to work with. Andrea is somebody who's been both competent and very, very good at the soft skills that we often talk about in technology, at working with people, talking with people. And I caught up with Andrea at Black Hat, or Andrea caught up with me to be more accurate. And she told me she's taking some time away from enterprises and working with a nonprofit. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. It would be great to have you come talk about your journey, what you've done, and about the nonprofit on Cloud Security Office Hours. And I invited her and she agreed to join us. So my plan is to do kind of a fireside chat, setting nothing on fire other than Stryker's feelings about polymorphic malware. But I've got some questions. I figure we'll have a conversation and then we'll open it up to everybody. Um, so Andrea, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hear my audio okay?
Yep, we can. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm in the Big Easy, New Orleans. As Neil has mentioned, I've taken a self-imposed sabbatical from corporate world, and I'm working in a nonprofit, the Women's Society of Cyber Jutsu, which we shorten to Cyber Jutsu. As Neil has mentioned, and I think Sean has mentioned, my name is Andrea Pohlman, and I go by Dre or Dr. Dre. Andrea gets butchered a lot, so I think Dr. Dre, a lot of people just like that nickname, myself included. And I do have the X/Twitter handle, had to add some numbers behind the Dr. Dre. I don't understand why. No, just kidding. Dr. Dre 23. I haven't posted in there for a very long time, but it's usually just a lot of regurgitating of security news that I find insightful. And one other thing, just going back to that whole note taker, that probably was one of mine. So I'm glad I'm not going to get fired from anywhere because I don't work for anyone technically. But that is very good to know. Usually, uh, folks just decline my note taker, and I'm very happy for it. But you know, when I was working at Microsoft, I really liked, and I tend to be a talker, and maybe part of the reason why Neil invited me here today. And I'm also getting my internet connection is unstable. I'm in a hotel, so I apologize if there is any disruption from my end. Thank you. And anyways, on this whole note taker, I like the ability to have summaries and reminders of what actions I'm actually supposed to take, but I'll go the old fashioned way and take notes. So to the side. But yeah, without further ado, Neil.
Yeah. So, let's start. Like, I know a little bit of your story, but how did you end up in cybersecurity, and how did you get to? I think your last corporate title was Enterprise Security Executive, which sounds incredibly impressive. I'm an aficionado of great corporate titles, and I think that's one.
I have held on to that one. I really like it too. But my story's a journey. So I mean, I can build up to that chronologically if you'd like. How much
Yeah.
time do you guys have? No. um, I'll try and be on point here. So yeah, I mean, I usually start from the get-go of like I joined the Air Force right out of high school. I come from a very military friendly family. Grandfathers were Army, Marine Corps. mom and dad were both Air Force. I was the black sheep for yeah, Semper Fi. I have my nephew I'm so proud of is in the Marine Corps, and my other nephew's in the Air Force. So I'm Air Force, so go Air Force, aim high. Very proud of that. And so in the military, I started to say I'm a black sheep. Yeah, because that also has something to, all my whole family were air traffic controllers, all in the FAA. And even when, honestly, it took until I started working at Microsoft that my family was like, oh, this career might amount to something. Because they kept saying, like, you need to be an air traffic controller. You need to be an air traffic controller. Like, it's just in our blood. And I kind of, actually, I do see parallels about it now because, growing up, and I always had my friends' parents ask me, like, oh my gosh, like, what do your parents do? And then they'd reply, oh my gosh, your parents are air traffic controllers. Like, isn't that the most stressful job in the planet? And I just thought to myself, like, my dad loves this job. Like, he takes naps on the job all the time. It was what I usually would reply to. And the parents would be like pulling out their hair, like, what? Like, how can the air traffic controllers sleep on the job? Like, this is horrible. But they didn't realize, like, there are you know set down times for air traffic controllers, so that way they can decompress and they have that time to deal with stress from the day. But the parallels I saw were really with incident response. I feel like when I was put in incident response, I really learned how to thrive under pressure and in the chaos. And I think that's where maybe in genetics, there are some things that point to maybe I would have been a good air traffic controller. So joined the military. Actually, even in high school, I took my school, Grapevine High School. If you've been to DFW Airport, you've been to Grapevine, Texas. And that's where I grew up because my parents were air traffic controllers. So my dad was at the Dallas DFW Tower. And in yeah, I'll take that job too, where nobody dies when I nap. So the school I went to, Grapevine High School, offered CCNA, so Certified Cisco Networking Associate certification. And I was able, it was like 2 years that you could participate in that course, and I took it as an elective, and mostly because I hung out with the nerds, I guess, and they were like, oh, let's take this course and let's LAN party. It was just like a bunch of Counter-Strike that we would play in class. It was awesome. But also we did learn how to do some networking and learning about class A, class B, class C, class D. But my big motivation, yeah.
I'm laughing because when I was a network engineer, I used to patiently explain to people that that's been gone for a long time. It's all cider now.
Yeah, exactly. Where you borrow, basically, is that, am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, it's not,
Other
it's all,
classes.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I loved it, but as you go down in IT, like, it's all tough. Like, I tell people getting into IT, into tech, it's not for the faint of heart. Getting into cyber is definitely not, cybersecurity is not for the faint of heart. And I think, I listened to the negative voices in my head early on in my career of, I took the CCNA course, and, later on I decided I'm going to go try and take the CCNA exam, and get certified. Cause, like, hey, I have all this schooling, I should be able to go get certified. And I came very close to passing, but, I don't know, I was early in my career, right after getting out of the military at this point, when I decided to go take my CCNA exam. And when I failed, I just thought, okay, I can't do networking, so I need to pivot. And it was a lot of that imposter syndrome. I've taken many exams, failed many exams, many. And they were all great learning experiences. And I've quickly learned in my career, like, just go take the exam, continue to take the exam. It's just, for the most part, yes, it does show that you have some competence in a particular field, but it's more important, I think, like if you need to check a checkbox, check the checkbox. And that's what I ended up doing later on in my career when I decided to get the CISSP. But that's, another story, I guess I'll probably get to in this grand thing. I love the comments. Neil, if you see anything, please interrupt me.
I will.
Okay, thank you. I
And
can't keep.
this is an interrupt-driven audience, so we're
I
lucky
love it.
nobody's raised their hand yet to interrupt.
Please,
It'll happen soon.
I warmly welcome it, and I do apologize because I might go squirrel and then forget where I am. But
You're in good company.
perfect. So yeah, join the military. Oh, and the whole reason why I joined the military, that's why I brought up going to school and CCNA. I had a boyfriend who was like, man, if you get your CCNA, you could go work for a company and make 60K without a degree, just straight out of high school. In my mind, I was like, oh, so I don't have to join the military, and I could just start my career at 60K. And this was, early 2000s. And I thought, that sounds like a good deal. I'm going to do that. Or, that's why I took the class. And then, fast forward, I started to get cold feet about even joining the military, because I was like, oh, I can't do push-ups. I can't get yelled at. Like, what am I thinking joining the military? And fortunately, I was, uh, I played sports, and I went to my head coach. I played basketball for a very long time. I grew up with the Dennis Rodman "bad as I want to be" motto. That's what my parents told me to be. Ended up getting a concussion, and if it weren't for my braces, I would have lost all my front teeth. It was a very bad accident, or yeah, if you want to call it an accident. But my mom said, hey, pivot into tennis. So taking my "bad as I want to be" attitude and going into tennis was an eye opener too. Like, you got to kill people with kindness. It's all about etiquette. It's not all John McEnroe. Anyways, I played tennis, and I fortunately was really good at it. I was nationally ranked, and I was head of captain or co-captain of my tennis team in my senior year of high school. And I said, hey, I don't know about this military thing. Can you help me get some scholarships? And I come from a family, again, military, and where debt is a very bad thing. And it doesn't even matter what type of debt. It just is, if you borrow any money, even if it's for school, it's not good. So I went into the scholarship mindset of like, unless I can get my school 100% paid for, like, I guess I'm going to have to join the military. And I didn't realize at the time how good of the scholarships I got, just for sports alone. And I didn't realize, like, academically, I could probably have gotten more scholarships to close that gap. But I got a 50% scholarship to cover my schooling from one school, and a 75% scholarship from another school. And in my mind, I was like, that's not 100%. I guess I'm joining the military. So it really took until like May of my senior year to sign that dotted line. I remember it was a week of prom, and all my friends were like, what, you're joining the military? So yeah, I joined the military. And I was a computer operator. So I did like help desk work. I did system administration work, and that's what I focused on. And fortunately, with that, I got a clearance. And so that's kind of what kickstarted my career in IT and technology. And so I guess there's some themes in this that you could take away. Like, I'm very money motivated, I guess. Yeah, Royal Peter, I agree. It's such a career competitive advantage, I think, to have a clearance. If you have the opportunity and you are fortunate enough to be able to get one. And so when I got out the military. In my family, even though we're very military, they say join the military, get the benefits. Like do your time in the military and get out and take advantage of what the military offered to you. Because obviously you were willing to sign your life on that dotted line when you served. So you might as well take advantage of the benefits. So I got out of the military and I started looking for jobs. And oh yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of people in that position, I feel like, that are looking at military as an option because of the current climate. So I was looking for jobs, and even though I had this clearance, only having 4 years roughly of experience and no education. And really, I didn't have any certifications at that point. I feel like maybe if I got certified, I might have been able to close the gap. But nobody was hiring. And I was looking at defense contractors. Granted, I was looking at defense contractors in the Panhandle of Florida. So I was stationed in Ramstein, Germany, and then at Eglin Air Force Base, which is, if you're familiar with Fort Walton Beach and Destin area, that's where I was located. And I'm thinking maybe they didn't have as many jobs. I don't know. But I got turned away a lot at the job fairs. And they said, you don't have education and you don't have enough of the experience for what we need to fill. And so that's when I decided, okay, I guess I need to focus on school. And, that's what I really quickly learned, like with anything in your career, you either need education or experience, and experience trumps education. But education is a very important path to have, whether you get it through traditional ways of education or non-traditional of like getting certifications, etc. So I at that point was going to school. Then I went, my husband and I, or I think boyfriend at the time, decided to move up to the Washington, D.C. area because we thought, okay, it will provide us both really good career opportunities as well as education opportunities, and pretty veteran friendly. He was in the military too. So we decided to go up to Washington, D.C. I went to George Washington University. At George Washington University, I was trying to decide, like, what do I actually want to do for my career program, or I'm sorry, degree program, I should say. And even though I've always fit in, I feel like, with all the computer science people, I was very afraid to actually, oh yeah, please, Don.
Quick question. How old were you when this happened? Because it sounds like you've done a lot in a short period of time.
Oh, thank you. um, I guess so. I joined the military at 122. I was in Florida there, and I even worked there for a few years too in parallel. Then I moved to Washington, D.C., and that was probably 23, 24. I don't know. Yeah. And maybe my math isn't mathing, but those are, I think, the time frames that I was actually going, trying to like calculate it in my head too. Yeah. I guess I've been kind of ambitious in my career journey, even though, like, I don't know, I don't think I was ambitious as I am. I don't know. But yeah, when I got to Washington, D.C., I had to have been 23, 24 time or age. And I was finishing up my educational track. And two, like, I was non-traditional in my career, like, but well, mostly in my education path. I felt I was on the non-traditional route because when I was going to George Washington, there were like a bunch of 18-year-olds and 20-year-olds as my colleagues, and I was 24 and already in the military. And that was definitely kind of different worlds to be in, and kind of a shock. And I remember even, you know, when speaking and giving presentations in school, that was, I've always had, like, I guess, being nervous. And I think that's common. A lot of people get nervous when they present. And I remember I was working as a work study in the Office of Information Technology, because that's what I wanted my focus to be in. And the professor came to me after I gave a presentation the day before where I was clearly nervous. And he was like, what's, what kind of like, what's wrong with you? He didn't say that outright, but he was like, you were in the military. Like, I thought you would give a better presentation than what you gave. And I was like, wow, that's a shock. But neither here nor there. I learned quickly, like, you're always going to have nerves. You're always going to just need to get to the point and make, whatever the objective is of what you're trying to accomplish, just accomplish it. But I digress. But thank you for that. So, and this is, I'm finally, sorry, I have a lot of different stories and intersections, but when I was getting actually I brought up, I was trying to figure out my degree program. So even though I liked computer science, and I wish, in hindsight, I wish I would have just done that, I was really fearful of getting bad grades. And when you go into the computer science degree program, they are just notorious for, like, everybody gets a really bad grade to push you to learning it. And usually then they just grade on a curve and bump your grades up later. But for me at this point, I was like, I can't get less than an A and B. And you can't fail. Like, I was getting the Montgomery GI Bill because of my military benefits. And I was like, I can't fail. And that degree program scares me of potentially failing if I can't keep up with my colleagues. And so I decided to go the easy route, which I've learned in life. The easy route always ends up being much harder than the hard route. It's much better to take the hard route, and then it's better. It sets you up for so much more success. So I ended up going for business administration, concentration in information systems, which is like the equivalent to management information systems degrees. So I did that, and I was finishing up my degree program, and I thought, this is so painful as a non-traditional student. If I want to ever get my master's, like, maybe now is the time, because they had a 5-year program. And for me at that point, like, I was close to just get my master's. So I thought, I'm just going to rip this off like a Band-Aid. I'm going to keep up the momentum of being in school and non-traditional and just go ahead and get my master's degree. And again, kind of like I was mentioning, the themes of, I guess, my motivation, I guess, have been really money motivated. And I thought, okay, I'm running out of my Montgomery GI Bill. How am I going to close the gap? George Washington is not cheap. I think at the time I was going in 2012 or 2010, actually, I went through 2008 to 2012, technically. So in their undergrad program, a year tuition was roughly around $50K a year, which, I don't know, that's probably cheap nowadays. I don't know, 13 years later, what that looks like. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I fund going to school? And I found this really awesome scholarship opportunity. And so this actually, okay, yay, we're like 20 minutes into this, and I'm finally answering your question, Neil. What got me into cybersecurity was this decision of, like, I need to find a way to fund my master's program. And there was a scholarship for service, which scholarship for service was really, we need to find capable cybersecurity professionals to come work for the government and help us fill the needs of cybersecurity in government. If we pay for your school, if you went to school for 2 years with this scholarship, then you would owe working for the government out of college 2 years. You'd still get paid salary, et cetera. So with this scholarship, it was really wonderful. I got my school for my master's program paid for. I got a stipend, and then, I worked for the government. And I don't know if there's I've seen more questions, so I'm just going to pause a minute because I've been.
Well, I want to shift a little bit because what you're doing today is really fascinating to me. And so I want to talk about cyberjutsu. And I was looking at the website this morning, and I love there's a graphic that shows, 50% of the workforce in the US is women. 25% of people in IT jobs are women, and 20% of cybersecurity professionals are women. And I thought that was interesting. It represents progress. I can remember when I was young, in the career, when I was a network support engineer at Microsoft, we had about 100 network engineers, and there were like 3 women in the team. And I remember looking at that and going, well, why? What's the cause? What's going on? So it's nice to see that maybe there's some progress, but it's still clearly a gap. So tell us about what cyberjutsu does, what the mission is, what the outcomes are.
And I pulled up, I'm
Yeah.
looking off one screen since traveling, pulled it up for you. Actually, this has even increased since, I guess, maybe the last few years. The graphic used to say 1 in 10, which, yeah, having been in the field for so long, and honestly, there are a lot of male-dominated fields, right? I don't think cybersecurity is the only one, because I've talked to girlfriends about in legal and in law, like they're the only one or the few women that are in the room as well. And even talking to my mom, she was like, oh, Andrea, like cybersecurity, it sounds just like being an air traffic controller. I was just one or maybe sometimes one of 2 in a room full of men. So I know that we're, in cybersecurity, we're not really alone in these numbers, but it has seen over the years pretty bad, with at least 1 in 10, I thought. When I was in, again, I should have asked how much time I had. So I do apologize if I've given you too much about my story into cybersecurity. But oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, don't. I wanted to jump into this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission is really to help minorities. It historically has been women, but any minority group and a majority group, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. And there are things like groupthink that happen when you have, when I have a lot of like white women my age, there is going to be groupthink from that group. So it happens, and it's nice to have an area of being able to provide a safe space to say, hey, you can come here, you can ask questions. I mentioned failing a lot of certifications. When I first took the CISSP, it was actually, Scantron, fill in 6 hours in the room with like, I don't know, 100 other people also trying to get their CISSP. I failed, and I failed miserably. And I honestly think it's because I second guessed myself in erasing on the Scantron, probably. Yeah. Anyways, that was a lesson learned. I retook it when it moved to computer-based training, CBT, and I took it in the room, or in the Pearson View room, I should say. And so I was able to pass it finally that second time. And after passing it that second time, that's when I realized, wow, this was so hard. And I feel like I just need to go encourage people to take these certifications, because and sometimes a lot of these certifications are designed to be very hard and to weed out the people who probably just need that sort of discouragement to not continue down the path anymore. And so I decided to this, for some reason, Women's Society of Cyber Jutsu popped up in my meetup. Meetup was very popular, and I think it's still fairly popular today. And it said CISSP study group. And I wanted to go to that study group to say, hey, I passed this. These are the ways you need to think about the test. Like, hey, it has like a lens of management, or if it has anything to do with a life and saving that life will always trump any other question on or as an answer to the question. And so that's what motivated me to get involved. I've been involved since its beginnings in 2012. And again, it's just a place that offers a lot of great workshops. Honestly, one of the last workshops that I participated in with this group was, and I always do this, it's Meta CTF. I always want to call it Mega CTF. I need to see if that URL is still available for purchase, because I think that would be even better, Mega CTFs. But Meta CTF has a really great way of doing capture the flag. It's like seasonal with the different challenges that it puts out. And in this workshop, we used AI to figure out how can we get to the answer, and like basically just ad hocing AI with the CTF, which I found out in that class, like the real serious CTFs, and I've been saying CTFs, capture the flag, for anybody who doesn't know what a CTF is. It's, a way to hone in on your cybersecurity skills. Anyways, with this class, I found out like it's really discouraged to use AI in like the more popular or more structured CTFs, which makes sense, I think. I don't know. Jury's still out for me. But I think if you are using CTFs as a way to learn, it's a really great way to have that assistance. And who doesn't also in CTFs Google things? Like, I just view it as, or Bing, I know it was Microsoft, web search engine. Who doesn't do that anyways with even work? So why not leverage what tools are available to you in your efforts of learning? So we offer, there's also a CISSP study group that is kind of seasonal. I think it's either quarterly or biannually. I help lead specifically something called Small Tribes, and it's a way for folks to have a peer-to-peer mentorship, and it's a group mentorship, and it's a lot around looking at soft skills with business acumen, communication, how to even enhance your LinkedIn profile, what it looks like to get into negotiations with companies, et cetera. And then
sorry, that one's really interesting. So I think I told you this, but this cloud security office hours started because Sean wanted to figure out in the cloud security space how we extend mentoring, how we scale it. So you're saying that, and I think I see Sean lighting up, and I'm lighting up. Like, how would somebody get involved in your small tribes? What does that look like?
Yeah. So for our members, we have advertised, hey, we have a form, please sign up if you would like that peer-to-peer mentorship. And then we try and give a set schedule for, really, we're kicking off this upcoming week. And yeah, actually, hold on, I want to say on Tuesday, the 14th, because we know it's a holiday coming up, Columbus Day / Indigenous Day, on Monday, but on the 14th we kick off, and it's structured. Each week we go over a topic, and after in each topic, a person will lead that topic, and then we have a co-lead, just kind of to help with the maintenance of keeping us on like timekeeper, keeping us on point. And they meet bi-weekly for about an hour, and it happens for 3 months. So that's the time and frequency and the duration of it. So go ahead. I wish I could see what Striker. Okay, a Striker.
Yeah. So this is actually a weird thing that happened. So I was moderating a panel at DEF CON that had a really lovely lady who was in charge of creating a community of Latinx cybersecurity and hacker professionals. And I made a point of saying, that's not a space for the white woman that I am, that's a safe space for those people to talk and not feel like I was invading. So for the cyber jitsu local groups, is it welcoming to everyone, or are you keeping it? How do you handle keeping it? How do you? Yeah. I guess my question is more like, how do you manage keeping it a safe space? And for men or people who are not the minority, how can you be respectful of knowing you're going into a safe space like that without accident, and still participate without accidentally doing something stupid? And I'm saying this as a white woman who wants to go be supportive of like my other groups locally, and I don't know how to do that.
This is a beautiful question. I don't know if I have a beautiful answer, unfortunately, or even an intelligent answer. I mean, I think we all just try. I think it's all about our intent. And honestly, I feel like if you and I were even in a private conversation, this is what I would say to you. Like, if you feel like you have something of value that you can bring to that group, and if you think you can get something out of that group too, I mean, it's a two-way street, right? So I would say go for it. I think if you can participate and they're open to you participating, definitely go do it. And take that conversation and apply it everywhere. Even with this, I do know cyber jutsu, just being transparent here, and I don't know, and I'm on the board of directors, and I don't know how transparent I'm supposed to be with this, but personally speaking, I care very much about this organization. I've been a part of it for 13 years, and they're even considering like, and we do go by cyber jutsu. It does make it a lot easier to say, because I, even being a part of the program or the nonprofit for 12 years, I still butcher saying Women's Society of Cyber Jutsu, which is very different from Women in Cybersecurity, WISIS. They're a great group too, but I care very much about Women's Society of Cyber Jutsu too. Similar veins. I think we're different in the fact of we lean in a lot more technically, but I digress. Getting back to the point here, I say in transparency of, we struggle of, should we just be cyber jutsu? Should we get rid of that front part? And part of me is like, I found this place because of this, and it's helped me so much of being this type of minority. Like I have a trouble with keeping tradition and how it's helped me in the past. And, maybe we do need to get more modern and just get rid of that front part. I don't know. This is just thoughts out loud and what we're going through. And also, the climate has changed too, with DEI, DNI, however you want to say it, and aligning there, because we are a nonprofit and grants and all of that are very much threatened, and we're seeing the pain. We're not only seeing the pain, we're feeling the pain of this. So again, I don't have a beautiful answer to your beautiful question, but that is probably, that's the spirit, I would say, of cyber jutsu. And maybe I'm projecting too much.
No, it's just something that I personally have struggled with. So if anything, I'm glad to know that there's not some sort of like stupid, obvious solution that I was just missing and making more complicated.
No, so, it's beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. But
I appreciate you thinking through that, because it is such a huge challenge. But go ahead, Neil. Sorry.
No, and it's funny because I was going to ask exactly the same question, but you put it better, I think, Stryker. But I'm going to use all my male privilege and ask my question anyway.
Wait, if I can tease for a second, you mean the bald, middle-aged, bearded white man privilege in tech? You mean that's very specific?
You forgot heteronormative.
Heteronormative. I'm so sorry. Yes, of course.
Yeah, no, my partner refers to me as the man with capital TH, capital T, capital M.
I love you. Just teasing.
Serious question. So I am a white, middle-aged, heteronormative man in tech.
Don't forget both.
What can I?
And bearded. I swear to God, there is a Spirit Halloween bag costume somewhere.
Oh, there is. Absolutely. No. They've licensed my image for it. But no, so seriously, what can I do to help? What's the appropriate way for me to engage and be helpful without being uncomfortable, I don't care if I'm uncomfortable, without making the process uncomfortable?
Well, I gotta say, you're the last person I would ever expect this question from, because you demonstrate it consistently over year, month over month, day over day, of just exemplifying how you can help. The fact of the matter, I mean, even today, my husband was like, what is this? Like, what are you doing today? And I'm like trying to explain. I was like, Neil Carpenter. Do you know Neil? Like, he's done so much for me. We've worked together. He's always reached out. And even thinking of probably the thing that I don't cry, but wants to make me cry. And I shouldn't say that. Everybody, it's okay to have emotions. I'm just, I guess, too tough for emotions. I don't know. I cry maybe once or twice a year, but like Neil put this wonderful LinkedIn post when we went to RSA, I think in 2024, and the amount of like just you unsolicited, you put the spotlight on me and said, hey, this is a good person, a good resource, etc. And to me, that just meant so much to me. But like, I know how much you lift up everybody around you. But I mean, if somebody else besides Neil were to ask this, I'll just try and go from that perspective. What can you do? I mean, I think the mentorship, I like mentorship personally. I need lots of it. Even through this conversation, I'm self-critiquing in my head, like, oh, I should have been more to the point, or I should have done this, I should have done that. And just, I'm a person who likes to better myself. And I think there are a lot of people in the field like that, wanting to better themselves. And I think mentorship, if you can offer mentorship, and two, like Sean and Neil with the whole scaling of mentorship, like how can you have greater impact? I think there are probably ways to brainstorm that. Just checking in I mean, you are so good at that, Neil, again. I mean, you really exemplify it. So I don't even think there's something you could ask me of like what you could do better or what can you do, because you do it. And those are the two things that I see as being able to help. I will say this for kind of going back to like, if anybody in general, and it doesn't matter woman or anything, like there are so many different minorities. There are minorities even in like extrovert, introvert, and I'm an extrovert, and I clearly have been dominating the conversation. I know I'm the guest, and so it's kind of okay, but I tend to do that, and I don't mean to do that. So just like recognizing things like that, and like understanding the room and who's in the room, of like, hey, this person's quiet, but like I we should probably check in with them and see, do they want to say something? Do they want to contribute? And I think that's a big thing, because there are people like me who are the monopolizers, even though I try to be better at not monopolizing. But I see Kimberly's hand has been raised this whole time. And on that note, since I've been
By the way, I'm gonna interrupt
monopolizing.
really quickly before Kimberly goes and mention that the primary beard privilege is nobody can see you blush.
I love it.
Touche. God damn it.
Man, I just had to I got rid of the blushing 25 years ago working with all men that mostly came from the military, cell techs that were, yeah, mostly from the Marines. But anyway,
Oh man, that's hardcore.
I know, like, I don't know where all these women are. I've been in the industry for 25 years and I can count on probably one hand how many peers I've had that are female. But so I've been, anyway. But I just wanted to talk to Neil's point about how do you help? And I would say for me, starting out, I graduated college in 2001, and I never found a mentor because it was kind of like, what do we do with this person? But the way I see the world, and if you look back years ago when, segregation or the thing, the whatever was different at the time, and then you have to like make rules and you have to make a safe space. And then I think the progression is eventually we all get to a space where we can all work together, but we do need some protections maybe initially. And so I guess to your point, Dr. Dre, I love that, Dr. Dre. I mean, I think that there's I think that we have to look at it in a non, like this isn't going to be the end goal forever kind of thing. On your progression of like safe space versus opening it up. Hopefully, eventually the goal is that we don't need that, right? That we work ourselves out of a job because people understand all the different diversity and all the different things. But to Neil's question, I would say instead of shoving women or whatever, name your minority, into a position without giving them training first and setting them up for failure and then making the cycle to where, it just people hate working under those people, and then it makes that whatever look bad. So start early, go grab someone in their 20s or 30s and start talking with them. And and also I think it helps you bearded men to understand that perspective of like, oh my gosh, that person thinks about this and I didn't, and then it kind of self-corrects.
And to your point, I mean, we see a lot of career changers, a lot of women in the medical field don't want to be in the medical field anymore, or nurses. And honestly, even on that, like another tangent, sorry guys, women can be even worse. Because like I listened to my mother-in-law who was a career changer into nursing, and the kind of the cattiness and the crap that she has to put up with, I'm like, thank God I work with men. Like I feel bad, I prefer it. Because I feel like there's a lot less BS that you have to deal with. But and kind of something that also came to mind, unless you had more on that, Kimberly, that you wanted to share.
Not really, but the cattiness, it's funny. When I worked in network at Verizon, we were like the real estate people were all women, and we're like, oh, it's catty over there. Like, yeah. So it's both ways,
Yeah.
right? It's all different ways.
I have a theory on that actually, because women aren't permitted, typically speaking, to show dominant and coded aggressive statements and tactics in public. you end up defaulting as the cultural indoctrination, this sort of passive aggressive political stuff. It's gotten to the point where we'll have a town hall with HR on, and I have to, and I'm giving my male coworker a sidebar into what the corporate speak is, because they're just more upfront and they don't like playing the silly game, but women have had to because we've had to be coded as a, and I'm speaking again in broad generalities. And so
Sure.
there's lots of, I have not found the same cattiness in women in IT and women in technology as a rule, and because we have had to be more confrontational in order to be understood by our peers, who are often
I
men.
would say direct, not
Direct as
confrontational.
well. Yes. Well, I don't know.
Defensive.
Maybe.
There are like studies showing that women, when they stand up for themselves, are called defensive, and men are appreciated for that same exact thing of pointing out facts.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that, and it sucks.
I don't know. Maybe
It
men,
does,
if you
yeah.
want to be an ally, don't assume we're on our period and don't assume we're trying to be bitchy whenever we're being mad about something. Assume maybe that we have a reason for being mad that is quote unquote legitimate, and behave accordingly. I think that's where true allyship starts.
You know, and on that front, there was something, I don't know what triggered it from the conversation with Kimberly, but also with you. What I also wanted to say, like, you know, there are stereotypes. The world is what it is. There will always be, hey, if there's something in the forest that looks kind of big, it's probably a bear. And that's me stereotyping, because it's human nature for us to to survive. And so stereotyping, we've needed to be able to survive. So unfortunately, it's catch 22, I think is the right phrase there. But I'm dyslexic and I get a lot of phrases mixed up. Or maybe I'm just nutty. But anyways, I think it's very important to be, you know, authentic to ourselves, because I've read so many different articles and, you know, the whole lean in book. And I know we only have 2 minutes, but I just want to say this last point of
And Andrea,
like,
we normally end up going over for people who can stay. So as long as you're
Okay.
good, please continue.
okay, perfect. So this whole like, okay, am I doing like I've mentally went through the whole like, okay, I can't say the word just. I can't come off too soft. I can't, you know, I have to make sure I'm at the table and leaning in from the lean in book, and like all these different things that like it was so mentally taxing to be like, am I doing the right thing? That I couldn't even freaking do my work. That I was just like I'm just so worried about how I'm presenting myself to the world that I stopped, and I was like, I just have to be authentically me. I get crap from a lot of my friends, on top of coworkers, of I tend to say I'm sorry, and I say I'm sorry a lot. And for me, it is, you know, I get it. It comes off as like there's like this whole mental thing to it. But for me, I grew up in Texas, and I guess, you know, the South. We were talking about that earlier today. And for me, I find saying sorry, I want to take ownership of me and how like I perceive a situation. And if I say I'm sorry, it's probably because I am sorry and I feel like I might have like imposed on you, and I want to have the common courtesy and you to know that I recognize the situation versus just like, oh, it's whatever. So it's just politeness in my mind. Whereas a lot of people have slapped me and told me multiple times, stop saying I'm sorry. So I'm sorry for saying I'm sorry. But go ahead, Neil.
No, and I think, you know, I Stryker had a valid point. I feel I'm saying that like it's not obvious, but you know, I've watched women I've worked with be absolutely punished for being assertive and for being aggressive in ways that male colleagues were in fact celebrated for. And you know, Andrea's nodding because she knows exactly where I've been and saw some of the same things happen. two things I think that came out of that. One, we had a VP who really wanted to be recognized for including women, and the VP's thesis was it was all about recruiting. We have to recruit more women. We have to get more women in the door. And another female in the team one day just looked at me and said, if you don't create a space where women want to stay, it does you no good to recruit more women. You're just pouring water into a leaky bucket. And the flip side of that, honestly, and I've told this story before, but I had a colleague, a female colleague, who was absolutely brilliant. She's gone on to have an amazing career in other parts of the company, well recognized for her contributions. But within our team, her aggressiveness, which was not anywhere near the aggressiveness of some of the men on the team, but her aggressiveness became, she's not a team player. And quite literally, I stood up for her and was told by management in more coded words, but I was told by management the only reason I would want to stand up for her was because I wanted to sleep with her.
I'm sorry, fuck those people.
Yes, fuck those people. And here's the one thing I will say. This is one of my regrets in my career is I had no idea what to say in response to that. Let that go. Don't beat yourself up. It was such a fucking moment. I really, like, now 10 years later, I have some idea of what I would say, but do be prepared to stand up, to interrupt that sort of abuse, to say something. And if you think you're going to war game in your head what you might say, actually, Kimberly, that was less than 10 years ago. And it was both my manager and my grand boss in different words. Yeah. And I was getting the best out of that, right? Like, I was not the one who was actually getting dumped on. So, but be willing to step in and say something when you see that happening. Recognize it, put yourself on the line for it. That's what I got.
That's beautiful. And I can't
and I didn't,
agree
right?
more
Like
that,
I failed at it.
I kind of witnessed it. I didn't know the full story, but like I intersected and I saw you stand up, and we had lots of conversations. Well, not lots, but at the time,
Yeah,
we had some conversations around it, and it still hurts me that you went through that. But go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, you've hit a meta topic for me. So like conversations that matter, tension in conversations, like being able to, conversational presence is how I generalize this. And this is something I'm like an active conversation with my daughter who's 7, and like even my son who's 11. But like the work I do with Mindset Dojo, or just generally the work I do. But the question I have for you is like, I'm always curious, like what helped them be able to navigate the social ego politics that are going on when somebody's like trying to cut down, like you're only doing that because of that, or like what helps you like in real time in the moment? Is that something you worked on, or just like enough repetitions that you're like just developed? Like, was there an intention there, or just any sort of anything that comes up? That's the prompt.
Thank you, Michael. And hopefully, again, I feel like this is kind of like a striker earlier with a beautiful question. I hope I can give a decent enough answer back. I will say, we talked about authenticity, I should say. And that's one thing. And this kind of also comes into play with some of the things that I think Neil was mentioning, but like just leaning into who I am. And I am, I'm more, I think, feminine, and I've unfortunately or fortunately for me, when I've leaned into my own stereotype, it's actually provided me a lot more success. Like I can be, if I come with it with a soft approach, like it's so much more well received. And I like the soft approach. Versus, being told like in all these different articles and books of like, be more aggressive and like, make sure your voice is heard. Like if I am more aggressive, I'm met with more aggression. And like, I don't know if that's just maybe like mirrored, like there's, I don't know all the psychology terms, but mirroring when in conversations, so that might be an element of like met with more aggression. And I don't know why, like if males are more aggressive, maybe they aren't met with aggression and that mirroring happens and it only happens to women, but I digress. But how do I handle, I mean, I'm going to try and say like the core of what I think you're asking me of, like, how do I handle office politics or like confrontation? Is that, would you say?
What I would say, my summary is your approach is authenticity and resonate from there. Like center with your authenticity and allow the moment to be what it is. So I'm hearing a letting go of needing to be a certain way and just understanding who I am
Totally.
deeply is your set. Like that's how
Yes.
your centering shows up for me.
And I would even say too, because like I was in a mentorship recently where a girl was asking me like, I hear like when I go into the workforce, there's going to be office politics. How like what do you suggest? Like I hate the drama. Like I don't want to be in office politics. And the fact of the matter is there will always be office politics. And really the suggestion is just be neutral. Like do not take sides. Obviously, if you have an objective in the situation of the office politics, say you're voting for blue, but everybody else in the office is voting for red. And I wish I remembered which blue pill, red pill was in the Matrix, but say you really want blue. And I think there are tactics that I would approach of like, okay, who's an ally? Who can I talk to about, hey, blue has these benefits. Have you thought about this? And, just, I think being methodical and strategic. I love strategy. I've been talking to a lot of people who've been recently either laid off or about to be laid off. And we get together about like, okay, how can we tackle you getting your next job? So I think, I know that wasn't really the key to the question. It was more that first part of authenticity, but I did want to add that piece because it seemed like, okay, if you're met with an obstacle, how do you approach that obstacle or that conflict?
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna
Oh, thank you. And I love hearing about your daughter too. I hope that it goes well with the situation. She's
it's her mom kind of jumped in on something and with the other parents and the school and then I'm like, hey, I'm available if people want to do some conversational presence, like conversational training for the moment. That's what I do. And it's opened up a new conversation in our family where their mother understands a little more of how what I do could be useful for her and her the youngest. It's her little daughter, right? And so like there's an interesting, a very deep bond there. So but that in the moment, it's like it's great to go to a teacher, it's great, but how do you handle, because that thing keeps coming around. And so I like what you're saying about neutrality, like being able to sit or distill to neutrality. You get a lot more options open that are authentic for you instead of a more defensive, right? So yeah.
And one other thought, and Kimberly, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say, like, okay, kind of going back to the computer science and degree program and feel like I fit in, but like, yeah, a lot of computer scientists and a lot of people in IT are introverted, go figure. And no, that's a joke. A lot of people who are introverted, like working on by themselves and having objectives and not having to deal with other people, I'm sure, that are talking, is probably why it attracts so many introverts. But I really struggled to try and make connections, human connections, friendships. Like I would invite people over for a party at my apartment in Washington, D.C. And it was like pulling teeth trying to talk to these computer science nerds. And I'm a nerd too. I say that very kindly. And endearingly. And so I went down this whole rabbit hole, kind of like with horoscopes, I'm a Capricorn. I don't go really into all the horoscopes and astrology, but to make this analogy, I was struggling so hard that I started looking at Myers-Briggs a lot more. And I'm an ESFJ for all you ESFJs out there. And if you want to put what you are in the message window, I encourage it. But I quickly learned like it's kind of like the 5 languages of love, right? I forget what all they are, but I think words of affirmation and gifts and et cetera, et cetera. Myers-Briggs, I quickly learned, like, if you can figure out the other person's personality and connect with them on that level, like the same way of the 5 languages of love, that can really be fruitful for whatever objectives that you have in mind for that conversation. Anyways, I digress.
I'm jumping
Right.
in. So, okay, going back to Neil's original question a while ago about, just like how you felt in the moment of standing up for that woman. In my parenting app, I follow Dr. Becky Kennedy. She's also been on Simon Sinek's show because apparently people are people, whether they're little or they're big. But I think she had an equation around like frustration and part of that is surprise. And so I like to think about when you come across that situation, giving yourself grace in that first time because it's a surprise. Like the first time you hear that, it's a surprise. Like who would know what to do, right? But I think it's great that you have that, you feel that emotion inside, that friction inside that you're like, that's not right. I should have stood up, but not, you wouldn't know how to stand up. But thinking about that script for next time it comes around and then having that, I think it's how I give myself like a frame of not, beating myself up, but also knowing that you can do better next time. And then I just want to say in all of these things, like, I know I'm like a broken record on like not thinking too black and white, but thinking in the gray because you know what, when I was at Cradle Point and I was in the Center of Excellence for SEs, I got to do what I did best and I got to really shine and people were like, wow, like it's amazing how you can, connect this and connect that and all these things. And then I went to an Israeli cybersecurity startup and I would have like thoughtful interactions, I thought, and they're like, no, you need to do it like this. And like there was this guy that came in that he's like, oh, I have this, he's at an MSP and he's like, I have $1 billion, hedge fund guys breathing down my neck that we need this right now and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, we're going to work through this, whatever. And my boss was like, you need to have, he needs to have testosterone in the room and blah, blah, blah. And so to come into that with Drea, like you're saying, the sorry or whatever, it's like, it takes smart people to recognize that sometimes. And so it's, when you're doing that, I think there's value because I call it, so I also follow Dr. Green's collaborative problem solving. And so Dr. Becky puts it this way is like if you're imagining a table and you're sitting across from your kid and you're having a problem with that kid, well, what if you imagine the problems over there and the kids next to you? And then you're attacking the problem together. So I think with office politics, if you can pull that in and put the problem over there and sit next to someone. So when I was at Verizon, I remember this, I don't know if this is stereotypical or not, but I'm just gonna say it. There was an Indian guy who is, apparently from his culture, yelling, especially yelling at women is okay. And he would literally like follow me into my cube, still yelling. We were both going for the same like senior position. And he had been out on vacation or whatever for a couple of weeks, and my boss had given me an assignment to lead the team. And he's like so pissed off. And then finally he's like I'm like trying to like do my work, and he's in my cube yelling at me, and no man will stand up, because they're afraid of him too. And I was finally like, is there anything that I have done on this team that's good? Can you see any good? And then he started listing things. He's like, yeah, you've done this, and yeah, you've helped the team do that, and yeah, you've helped. And I'm like, that's just what I'm trying to do with this project too, buddy. And he's like, oh. And so it was like forcing him to see the good and not just the bad. And so that's that diversity thing. And you know what? He stopped yelling at me. And it was maybe a soft approach. I don't know. But anyway, I prayed for him to get a promotion because that's what the Bible tells us to do. And he got promoted to Alabama and he is a vegetarian. So good luck with eating French fries all day long. So
I love that.
yeah.
I unfortunately have to go
Karma.
myself.
Sorry.
But I just wanted to say I didn't get to see this one thread, but it stood out to me, Sean, what you said of like growing up in a very chaotic, broken environment, was an emancipated minor at 14. I did not feel privileged at all. That to me, and I don't know the rest of what was all in this thread, but like that's the core of everything. Like we don't know people's pasts. We don't know what path they've walked. And, this everybody doesn't, yeah. So coming into situations with good intent, and assuming good intent from everyone else, I think that is the only way that you can really have really fruitful, productive gatherings, etc. So I love that you shared that because we talk about so much about minorities, and I hate bucketing and stereotypes, but it is what it is, and I think we can all learn so much from each other. So I really just want to say thank you, everybody, for having me here today. It's been a wonderful conversation. Neil, I'm honored as always. Thank you for having me here. And if you guys want to connect, I'm always happy to connect. And I'll drop my LinkedIn in here too. But thank you for having me.
Thank you
Dr.
so much
Dre,
for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Oh, thank you so much. I only brought that up to point out that, it's interesting that when for many, many years, I heard about this privilege thing, like check your privilege, blah, and I'll be perfectly honest, I kind of rolled my eyes at it because I did not feel privileged at all by just being lucky enough to be born male, being born white, being born in California, all of these things that actually work to my great advantage, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And these sessions, like especially, today and many others, just really kind of the last couple of years have driven home the point that, uh, privilege is real and, it's something you have to acknowledge.
Yeah, I remember, I forget, there was some sort of class I took at George Washington University, and it was like something to do with privilege too. And I came into it thinking like, I'm not getting my parents to pay for my college education. I joined the military to be here. Like, I don't feel privileged. And I mean, I know I'm privileged. It's just the different types of privileges, I guess. And in that case, I was just like, I had to hustle to get here. Like, I don't, I don't know. I could probably count like probably 99% of my classmates in that same class had their education paid for and in there. And I was just thinking, she's having us write this paper on, tell me why either you feel like you're privileged or tell me why you don't feel like you're privileged. And I went with I don't feel like I'm privileged because I had to do everything to get here. But I digress. Privilege is
That's
such
exactly what I'm
an
talking about.
interesting concept, and I know there's a lot of like landmines in talking about it, but I that's where I just wanted to say, like, we don't know each other's backgrounds, we don't know the paths that we walked and the challenges that we faced, and it's at face value I can say like, oh man, Sean, you're so privileged, it must be so nice to be this white male in security. Good for you. You don't know how tough I've had it as a woman. It's all relative, I guess, is where I'm going.
100%. And thank you so much for the conversation today. It was unbelievably good.
Oh, thank you.
And hey, Dee,
we have one more hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Jay. I just liked your example a lot. I wanted to say that when I was learning about this, one of my first college courses about privilege, and of course, actually a Black woman, and non-binary, so we've had these conversations growing up in my household, but um, my first college course, there was an exercise where people got to step into a room or step into the circle when a certain thing was called out. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how helpful that illustration was for me when I was young, because there were things that I stepped in the circle for, things I stepped outside of it for, and I saw other people. It kind of broke it down in the way that you and Sean were just talking about. And I hope to see more of activities like that in those conversations, because I think it helps visualize.
Love that. So the exercise is called step in the circle or step out?
That wasn't what the teacher called it. Of course, he was much more
Okay.
elegant or eloquent, but it was an exercise where we had a circle and people were to step in, like, I mean, to your example, if you have your parents paying for a portion of your schooling, that's something that I would probably
Ah,
step in the circle for. But, somebody being able to like make certain assumptions about my race, like I would step outside of the circle, being Black versus etc. So it kind of gives you an idea of, when we're saying privilege, it's because I think it's natural to get defensive, but when we're saying privilege and then we start spelling it out, we could see how we're all going in and out of this circle, and we're all like these privileges are kind of interwoven.
I
love
just saw a
that.
video on that. I posted it on LinkedIn. I'll post it with a tag to CSOH, but it was a more fun one. They were like, how many of you are step parents? How many of you whatever? And they ended with, how many of you were lucky enough to have sex last week? And it's just talking about like we all, like things cover humanity, not just these boxes we put ourselves in.
All right.
And I
Well, I'm
think
going to stop
too,
the recording. Again, thank you so much. And
thank you.
hopefully spread the word, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Thank you
I'll
so much
say
for